Which one are we doing? This
Try
one, the
that
shot.
Yeah.
This is, rather than clearing my throat, we'll do a ginger shot. That will really excite our producer, because anything that involves pain and health, he's in. I mean, if you told him sticking a spike up his ass would improve his life expectancy, I guarantee you he'd be down here with a spike up his ass every morning.
I'm pretty sure that's how you kill medieval kings. I don't think it helps.
Hello and welcome to Business Without Bullshit. We are here to help founders, entrepreneurs, business owners navigate this crazy world by telling some crazy stories of some interesting figures and professionals to show there are many others who share the same challenges in business as you, and perhaps some you don't. And hopefully we can learn a thing or two from them and their bullshit. I am Andy Ori, and alongside me is my co-host, Pippa Sturd.
Hi, Andy.
Hello, Pippa. And if you would like what we do here, hit the button, subscribe. Then we can do more of this, and that would be good, maybe. So we're also on YouTube, and if you fancy watching us in action, hello. Yes, I am a twat. So there we go.
Swearing.
Yeah. We're really on a mission to cut the swearing. I apologize to any listeners.
First hurdle.
Is twat a swear?
Yes.
Well, but
it's really rude.
Is it?
Do you not know what it means?
I know what it means, but you didn't need to tell everyone. And today we are joined by the illustrious Andrew Gibb from Melbourne, Australia. No, sorry. I'll do that again. I can't help myself. Joined by Andrew Gibb, founder and managing director of Coldpress. Clues in the title. Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very nice.
The clementine is superb.
We're actually trying
we're
rebranding it Mandarin. Clementine's a bit posh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there a difference? I don't know that there's a difference between clementines and mandarins.
It's whether you're in Waitrose or Aldi, probably. They're the best invention ever. And they're also called easy peelers, which sounds very Australian. I bet the Australians started that. You always call them the easy peelers, mate.
We did Pink Lady and Granny Smith, but we didn't do the easy peelers.
Did you do the Pink Lady and the Granny Smith?
Yeah, that's right.
So, Angie, tell us about this. In simple terms, what's going on right now and what's keeping you up at night?
What's keeping me up at night is cash flow, the joys of all small businesses. The weather's warming up. And when the weather warms up, our customers order more juice, which means you require more cash. And so that's always a challenge.
You're in quite a lot of stores now. How long have you been going?
We're a 12-year overnight success. Yeah. So we started in 2011, and for the first 5 years, till about 2015, we were fantastic, going great guns. Waitrose, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrison's. I was the smartest guy in the room. As we grew, we moved to a new co-packer, someone who didn't know anything about HPP. HPP is really complex, and basically they were shocking and made really bad products, and we lost most of our customers. And since about 2018-19, been rebuilding the business. And
did people really notice the drop in sort of the product?
Yeah.
So HPP's plastic.
HPP's high pressure processing. So all the juices that you buy in the supermarket are pasteurised. So pasteurisation is great, but the big problem with pasteurisation is that it uses heat. Fruit juice, vegetables, they're heat sensitive. So the nutrients, the vitamins, the taste, the aroma, the smell, they're all heat sensitive. So the key about Coldpress or HPP is we preserve our juices without heat, so they taste fresher, have more nutrients, last longer.
Is flavour connected to nutrition? If they smell better, is that a sign? You would think there's a logical connection there.
Not so much with nutrition, but with sweetness, with bricks. Okay, so the fresher the fruit, the higher the bricks level. The
bricks is the amount of sugar percentage.
Sugar, and in fruit juice we look at bricks acid ratios and all that sort of stuff.
I bet though there must be a connection, because until we had labelling and packaging, which was quite recently, smell was pretty much the main way we could determine the quality of a food and whether we should eat it. And
it still is, and even with HPP juices today or any juices, the first thing that I always do is smell. Basically your taste through your nose as well. So.
Yeah. And then, okay, so in 2011, I don't think many people. There's a buzz, by the way. I don't think anybody. Coldpress was like this new thing, maybe in 2011. Where did you see the idea first? America or?
Well, we've got to go right back to my roots in Australia, basically. So, my background, I was a marketer. I worked for big companies like Mars Confectionery, Coles, stuff like that. Hated the big politics of big companies. Started my own consulting business because I wanted to be able to tell people where to go, or all that sort of stuff. And I did this. These stone fruit growers who were growing peaches, apricots, nectarines, basically they had learned about this new technology, HPP, and they wanted a feasibility done. And so basically my company was employed to do that. I was going out speaking to Nestle and Yoplait and Danone about this technology, and I couldn't work out why they were giving me the time of day. I'm this marketer sort of thing and presenting, and there was this real stickiness about the technology. And so I basically got some money together, worked with CSIRO, the big food science institute in Australia, and we started making fruit preparations for dairy, so yogurt, and using this technology, strawberry, raspberry.
Where was the technology from?
It was the US Army originally were one of the first users of it because they wanted nutrition to keep the troops fighting fit. And and the original technology with HPP, because what we're talking about is 87,000 psi of pressure.
80,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. We live at 1 pound per square inch of pressure, or 1,000 pounds. I don't know.
The Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the world's oceans, 11 kilometres below sea level. There's 1,000 bar of pressure there.
Oh, right. So that's really
that's
really
right. So we live at 1
each
bar.
one of these goes to 6,000 bar of pressure, or there's 32 psi of pressure in your car tyres, 87,000 psi. And what happens? So what happens? And it started with really expensive protein.
While keeping it cool, because pressure creates heat.
Yeah, it does. So there's a slight increase in
temperature, but it's pure pressure that you apply.
Yeah, so
slowly.
It basically how it works, and you can see that our bottles are hexagonal. If I can maybe try and talk you through the process. So it's fresh juice we squeeze, cold pressed into a bottle. It's raw juice. We then put the bottle, so it's just raw juice in a bottle. We put it in the machine. The machine then fills with water, and then at incredibly high pressure, we pump an extra 15% of water into the pressure vessel, and that creates the hyperbaric pressure. And it takes about anywhere between 4 and 8 minutes to do an HPP cycle. So our bottles are all hexagon shaped because an HPP vessel is round, and the more bottles that you fit into the HPP machine, the cheaper your processing costs. So all our bottles tessellate together. So that's why we're the most efficient HPP process, because no one can fit more juice into a HPP machine.
So you've got 3 different sizes of bottle, haven't you?
Yeah, but they're all hexagon.
So each one of them will fit.
Yeah,
This one's round.
Yeah, well, there's the hexagon version of it over there.
The first one I picked up.
There's the hexagon version of it over there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. D, pass us that one.
So you actually squeeze an orange, it goes in a bottle, you stick a bottle in this machine that then pumps water at a ridiculous pressure into it, compressing the juice with water, and then you extract the water.
And then the water drains out of the machine, and
because the juice is in the bottle.
The juice is in the bottle.
Oh,
the juice is in
the bottle.
It's the squeeze.
That's why in the thing, because they tessellate together in a circular thing.
And you fill it with water, and then the water goes
machine's
crazy.
Full of water.
So these bottles actually need to be able to compress quite a lot during that process.
Well, the compression is what transmits the pressure to kill the yeast, the E. coli, the salmonella, the listeria. So basically, the good stuff, the taste, the nutrition, they can handle the pressure, but the bad stuff, the yeast, the mold, the E. coli.
That's the theory. They've done lots of studies, because I don't know how they work out the nutrition.
Scientists, baby.
I know, they spin it around or something and say, but they've done the tests and say, oh, there's way more nutrition in this, have they?
Yeah, yes, they have. But you wouldn't believe, with regard to juice, you can't make, if my competitor has 30% of the daily requirement of vitamin C, I can't make a competitive health claim against that. So the world's a multi.
Well, would you say that again? So everyone sticks in absorbic acid on top, and vitamin C happens to be quite stable.
Well, naturally occurring vitamin C. But the thing about it is that with health claims and nutrition claims, you're very constrained about what I can't run an ad saying that my juice, even though it does contain twice or 50% more vitamin C than a pasteurised juice, I can't run an ad to tell you
Why
that.
can't you do that?
It's
Because
difficult
people
to
say kills up to 99% of bacteria when you know that could be 30% or 50% or whatever.
And they do manage to vaguely slag
Right.
off other companies sometimes. But
Well,
I think
you're a lawyer. You should know. This is
I
all
think you've
tricky
got to-
lawyers that
Yeah.
came up with this when they were formulating
Well,
these
I mean-
claims.
Those damn lawyers.
I think you've got to separate two things. Advertising Standards Authority have a right, if enough people complain, to say you can't say that, or that's a bit naughty, but that's on a complaints basis. But you're talking more like, which I'm familiar through cosmetics, is the right to claim things.
Yeah.
So unless it's a medicine, you can't claim it has
Yeah.
benefits. So for ages, I never understood why skincare and cosmetics talk such nonsense, but it's because they can't say it. They can't say,
Correct.
you know, to be honest, they can't say it's not going to give you wrinkles. There are a couple of things who help with that, like retinol acid, but vitamin A. But yeah, mostly you end up with these rules that you're like, well, you can't really say that. So you can sort of say, you know, helps look the skin look more firm and plump.
You can presumably
occasionally.
say,
As part of a healthy and balanced
Yeah,
lifestyle.
exactly.
I mean, you can presumably say this is cold pressed, not pasteurized, and in the cold press process, we maintain the vitamins or whatever, right?
Yes, yeah.
Like in that sense, if you're describing the process that you use, you can presumably like explain it. You just can't say.
Doesn't everything
and
bloody
it's
cold
better than
press?
pasteurized.
Don't you think everything's cold press now? You go into
Oh.
prep, you go everywhere you go, it's like cold press, cold press. There's another technique. What's the other one? There's cold press. Oh, there's another one that they sometimes see. Don't know.
Well, there's confusion between cold. If you look at Wikipedia, between cold pressed, it's cold pressing, extracting the juice without using heat, and HPP. Whereas there's this hardcore juicing school where, say, cold pressed is just the squeezing of the juicing, and even HPP is bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the really hardcore.
But they're presumably in that same breath saying E. coli might be fine.
Yeah, well,
'Cause,
but then,
you know, they're taking
they're
that
selling
risk.
a raw juice, and a pregnant woman eats
Yeah,
that and
yeah.
drinks that juice
That's
and
what
gets
I mean.
sick. And
I mean, you
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's kind of annoying as usual that, we always end up sort of living by the sort of extremes, don't we? But okay, so it all went like tits up. Why did it all went tits up? Because you had a bad manufacturer who cocked up all the supply and you lost all your listings.
We did things like, our best-selling product's Pink Lady, and we're a Pink Lady, but rather than using Pink Lady in our fruit, they used cheap red apples and added Pink Lady aroma.
Oh my God, is this business still going?
Oh, well, now, no, but we've learned if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And we've learned from this. So guess what? We buy all our own fruit these days. We certify, we DNA test it where necessary.
How did you find out that's what they were doing?
We went and tested it. So, and we also had one of our customers test it too.
You can get a DNA test and then they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So,
Why is Pink Lady so popular? Is it partly the name, or is it?
I think it's just the balance of the crispness and the sweetness, and they're really good marketers. We pay 7 cents per kilo every time our licensing fee to them, and
of course it's a brand that someone owns.
They're a brand, and so we pay a license, and they're really good marketers. I remember speaking years ago to another person in the fruit industry, and we're talking about Jazz apples and Royal Gun, and we just said, well, we wish they marketed their fruit like Pink Lady do theirs.
People don't understand in the supply chain that you make a product and you tell them what the ingredients are, and the manufacturer say, okay, yeah, we'll make that for £1, and you go, okay, great. Like, how do you know what's in there? Because the reality is every time you go look closely, I mean, like this used to happen in skincare, you'd be like, oh, hang on, we've worked out you've run out of this ingredient. They're like, yeah. They're like, yeah, but that's like one of the key ingredients we buy, especially for the product. So how are you making the product? And they're like, oh, we're just using butter or whatever. And you're like, were you going to tell us this? But then you think about it from their perspective. They're a manufacturer. They're just trying to make this stuff. They'll get it done. It's just white cream, man. How do you know what's in it? So, I mean, I think it's troublesome as a consumer, but it means that you as the person in the middle have to spend an awful lot of duty of care to uphold your standard, but it's not a cost you get paid for.
No, not at all.
People just expect that to be right, you know.
But your brand's everything, and so it's a great investment in the business.
Yeah.
And you mentioned cash flow. I'm assuming, it's for a product like yours, it's quite difficult because presumably you've got all these upfront costs.
Yeah.
with getting the manufacturer to actually squeeze the juices and do the HPP and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And getting the fruit itself and getting the bottles and all that stuff. But you presumably don't get paid by the supermarkets until sort of 6 months later.
60, 90 days.
Yeah.
That's why they have wonderful things like invoice discounting and stuff like that, where you can, draw down on your day's sales, which is, what many small businesses like us use.
And how did you end up here, mate? I haven't got quite across that Rubicon.
Yeah.
You were down in Oz, you started this.
Yeah. So, and, there's specific questions that you're wanting to ask, and this ties into one of them. I don't know whether it was my greatest mistake or our greatest opportunity, because I wouldn't be here. So let's go back to 2006, 2007. We're making these. I started making fruit preparations. The biggest fruit preparation supplier in the world basically halved their prices to make sure that we didn't break into the market, so that we realised pretty quickly that we weren't going to be any good at making fruit preparations for yogurt, even though we were the first in the world to.
So that was a kind of B2B business.
So people like Nestle who make yogurts and stuff like that were wanting, but, the competition was just too great. So we pivoted to juices. We had this wonderful HPP machine and all that sort of stuff, and it went really well. We got listed with Woolworths and Coles in Australia. Was starting to make money.
The entire market at that point.
Yeah.
It was only 2 supermarkets.
Done. Like geographically it's big, but, 2 presentations and you've got 80% of the market here. Whereas
let's go for lunch.
To 20, you do 20 presentations here and you've got maybe 60% of the market. So, and then we entered the World Beverage Innovation Awards in Anuga in 2007.
Where the hell's Anuga?
Anuga's Germany, which is the biggest food, Cologne. So the biggest food trade show in the world. I think that was actually 2008. And
lots of people standing around.
I like the sound of a food trade show.
Yeah, so do I, standing around trying out sausages.
We should go to one of those.
Where's the sausage department? Anyway.
And we were voted best new juice, best new beverage concept in the world. And,
nice.
And so it was, wow, this is really good. And we were raising money at the same time, and we didn't raise enough money. And I suppose one of the first lessons is you got to manage your board. And I had this huge bust up with my investors and shareholders in Australia. And, from being world's best new, 12 months later, I was out of a job. They basically
So the moment you were an Australian brand, you went to the
Pressure Fruit with a triangle bottle, because triangles and hexagons are the two most. So, and it's still going.
Oh, okay. And you went effectively to the big
it was
award.
called Pressure Fruit.
Pressure Fruit, Presha Fruit. Pressure.
Oh, I see, like fresh.
Pressure.
Yeah, I
Coldpress,
get it.
Coldpress. I got better brand names with by the time I got to the UK. So I was.
What was the argument between the shareholders? What was the dispute?
Well, we were raising money, and I wanted to raise enough money to be comfortable. I had a bank guarantee on my house. Underwriting the machine that we'd purchased and all that sort of stuff.
So take me slowly. First of all, how many owners are there at this point?
There's probably about 8 or 10 shareholders.
8 and 10, and how many are working in the business?
Just me.
So
and my father.
So the rest are investors.
You and your father. You work with your father. Is he still around?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, very good. And effectively, the rest were investors.
Yeah.
Aussie investors from Melbourne.
Yeah, mostly ex-banker types and stuff like that.
Were they angels, or were there some VCs in there?
Angels, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you,
like a local accountancy practice that had wealthy clients. I'll put your money into this thing.
And you raised $1 million Aussie or something initially from them to get the thing going. You won the award, and you were
got the Coles and Woolworths listing, 7-Eleven, everything's going great guns.
And then you need a lot of money, which you do. I mean, it's a tough market, and you're going to have to manufacture a ton of it. And what, they didn't want to raise more?
Well, they didn't want to get diluted more, and I was like happy to take some more money. And then, of course, we ran out of money 6 weeks later. And I didn't respond well to that because we were buying a new HPP machine, and probably I'm a bit calmer these days, and my temper.
You were an angry young man.
I was an angry young man, and they got rid of me, and then the business ran out and was about to fold. And then I said, well, look, I can raise the money, but the deal is that you guys are all going to have to resign. So I went and got the two of the wealthiest families in Australia, the Smorgans and the Foxes, if anyone knows anything about Australia. And they invested in, and of course, of high net worth families, they wanted their people, so they got an MBA. First thing, accountant, auditor, threw him in the first day. That guy fell in love with the business, and basically 2 months later, I took a package and he took over. And so, so I was, I got paid out.
So wait a second. So they didn't want to raise more money, but then you did raise more money.
By getting these rich families in.
By getting the rich families. So they did get
They was on from the board, and then the rich family said, no, Andrew, we want our people to run the show.
Okay, so they kicked you out.
They kicked me out. Yeah.
It's the age-old get a massive shark to eat the smaller shark.
Yeah.
And then deal with the massive
Actually,
shark.
that happened to another Aussie client of mine, exactly that. The husband and wife. And then the husband got booted out because he was a naughty boy or something. And then his wife brought in a big American investor who took over and then kicked her out. It's just like crazy.
Yeah, it was like that. Victor Kiam, I was so impressed I bought the company. It was sort of a bit like that. Yeah.
Well, I forgot about that.
What would you have done differently if you'd played through that again? Do you think, does it matter? Or
Well, I always wanted to go global. So where we end up now, I always wanted to be in Europe, Australia, 20 million people, Europe, 200 million people. I would have managed the board a lot better in hindsight, So it would have been nice. Yeah, it would have been nice to have the choice, and it's a great thing. I've got shareholders. We've been through a hell of a lot with Coldpress, but they've been with me 7-8 years, and we've been through some really tough
Aussie shareholders.
No, in the UK. In the
so
UK,
you then moved here.
I was top 100 Melbourne most influential people, best juice in the world, and I was unemployed. I was like, oh. So we went on a family holiday with my wife and 3 kids, and it was like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, sort of thing. And it was a good question from the point of view, well, do I use all these skills that I've got? And, I know a lot about HPP and making juices and all this, or do I try and, I was a marketing consultant before that. And then a Australian friend of mine who had a business in London said, well, let's have a crack at Europe, UK. I was originally thinking Europe. He said, oh, no, let's do UK. And I wasn't excited. And probably one of the biggest lies I ever told was I said, I reckon we could launch it for about 200 grand.
It's always 200 grand.
Yeah. So our balance sheet, £6 million later. Sort of
2 million is probably closer.
Yeah. But, that was the start of it. And so I didn't even know whether I could make HPP juices, didn't have a supply chain or anything over here. And but we bought a belt press from a Austrian guy in Australia, and I hooked up with him, and we made our first samples in an old...
Okay, because underneath it you're having to buy very new equipment, basically. Is the belt press the thing that presses it?
No, belt press is how you make the apples. Yeah, so there's the HPP machine, but you've got to have all the
So you've got to get the juice first.
Yeah, you've got to get the juice first. So, So I rang up this Austrian guy. I said, I think I'm opening this business doing HPP in Europe. Can you help me? And so I went over, and so we made our first batches in this old pig factory in Austria. And
it's like trace of pig in the original apple juice.
Yeah. So we made these samples in Austria. They weren't even processed, so because there was no the only HPP machine was in Milton Keynes at this stage. So I bought this raw unpasteurised juice back as excess baggage from Austria, and that's what we presented to Waitrose, and Waitrose said, we're going to list this, and that was the beginning of Coldpress over here.
Oh, wow. Fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have to buy one of those HPP machines here, or you found someone with one?
Well, no, we didn't. And the next stage of our business is we're finally getting our own HPP machine. But
how much do they cost? How much for an HPP machine?
£2.6 million.
Oh, piss off.
Yeah.
How big are these things?
Germany? China?
No, the Spanish and the American Swedish. There's two countries. The Chinese have had a crack at making them, but they, with that amount of pressure, they're designed to fail. They're serious pieces of kit.
What do you think is the biggest problem facing this industry then?
Well, let me give you one example. So we're supplying Aldi at the moment. Love dealing with the discounters, but we agreed a contract with them in September last year.
Are they nicer to deal with, are they?
Yeah. Yeah, I prefer the discounters personally. But it's just you get beaten up once and then it's done. And whereas with so they negotiate really hard on price, but no debit notes, none of the other
nothing
supply.
complicated. They
Nothing,
just
it's
sell
just vanilla.
one product as cheap as it can be sold.
Yeah, we're going to screw you on price, but that's the price, and
But
we'll
that's
pay you
it,
on
yeah.
time. And
Yeah, okay. Unlike these devious British bastards who are just like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to pay $100,000 for this new fence we've put up near your products, because people are getting too excited. Or
well, if you don't do it, we'll delist you, because that's with the fear of being delisted with small retailers, more small customers like us is always the big stick they've got with us.
Okay, so basically, and it costs a fortune to do. They're pretty big bottles, though. This is what, like a litre?
Yeah, that's gross. That's a great 750 ml, and we also do a 1 litre.
So the problem effectively is price increases, and
passing on.
How much is a consumer will be willing to pay more? Isn't more premium?
The price sensitivity, the price
At the
elasticity.
Yeah.
The best bit of advice I ever got was from my first Tesco buyer, and I wanted to price this over £3 when we first listed, and he said, "Well, yeah, Andrew, we can do that. But we'll be delisting you in 12 weeks' time," sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah, so it was good advice.
And so where do you sit? Just above?
Well, what we're trying to do is, and I had just going back to Australia, apple juice is a big part of what we do. In the whole of Australia, what we're about is industrialising this boutique process. So to give you one example, the best apple press or the most efficient is a thing called a Booker apple press. In the whole of Australia, there's 2 of these Booker presses.
No way.
So the first plant that I went into in Spain, there's 4 in just one plant. So I had this light bulb moment when I first went down. So, hang on, maybe we can industrialise this technology. And if we could industrialise this technology, we could democratise juice, because it's really nutritious, but it's for rich people. So how can we make a
square that circle?
Yeah, so things like the hexagonal bottle. So we're all about being price competitive with pasteurised juices and stuff like that.
Thinking about the margin effective, every little way you can cut some price.
Yeah, but it's a crowded marketplace, really, isn't it?
It's just, one of naivety is a beautiful thing. If I knew now what I knew back 12 years ago, I probably wouldn't have done it.
2008, I want to say, was when I used to work for a different company, and we did the sale of Innocent to Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And at that point, the whole point of the deal was orange juice.
Oh, really?
Because Coca-Cola they had Minute Maid.
Yes.
Which didn't have a great reputation, and they didn't have anything to rival Tropicana. And so the whole idea was they'd buy Innocent for their orange juice, and then that would be the rival to Tropicana.
Yeah.
But at the time, there weren't that many orange juices or juices in general on the market, and Innocent was quite, the smoothie thing was quite an unusual thing. Now you walk into any supermarket and there's freaking thousands.
And what's been your biggest cock up, as they say?
Well, getting sacked from the company I found, it was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good.
I can see that as a mistake.
Yeah.
And then when I moved over and set up Coldpress, moving to the co-packer who...
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a cock up.
That was pretty good too.
You got a hat trick? You got a third massive cock up?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. There's no show. If it's you learn by your mistakes. And one of my best ones was I employed this guy who was from Grenade, who was their logistics and purchasing manager.
Grenade,
energy, protein. Yeah. Most glowing reference that you'd ever seen, and lovely gay guy, and use that to his advantage. Well, he left. He stole 250,000 from us.
No way!
Wow!
Yeah. What, at your bank account?
Yeah. So that was pretty clever.
Oh,
and then Grenade wrote this glowing.
Bit by bit?
I set up this bogus transport
was
company.
It a false
was very
reference?
sophisticated.
Oh, right, yeah.
It was really sophisticated.
How did you find it?
Well, we ran out of money.
Did he leave before you found it, or you found?
Yeah, he was.
You sue him? What did you do?
He got 2 years suspended sentence.
What's that mean? You don't have to go to prison, but you go to prison.
You go to prison if you do anything else.
If you get a parking ticket.
Yeah. If you get a parking ticket.
But he got taken down into the dock as if he was going off to prison, and apparently they just do that to scare the bejesus.
To make you feel better.
Yeah. So what he did was, he stole all this money. But the funny thing about Grenade was that they wrote this reference. I rang up and finally got through to them. I said, "Did you write this reference to this guy?" And I said, oh, yeah, we couldn't get rid of him quick enough. That's why I included my phone number on the reference so that you could ring up and say, don't touch him.
Yeah, because that's the problem. You can't.
Oh, is that what they're saying? You were saying you could call. So
Yeah,
he
he wrote his number saying, he wrote this bogus reference.
Well, why didn't he just say?
Because you can't. Speaking of somebody who
And
used to
someone so
write a lot
English.
of these letters.
Wow.
No, it's not that.
shouldn't
It's that you
lie,
get
though.
sued. You could, if you write somebody a bad reference and they then can't get another job, or they find it harder to get another job, they will sue you.
Wow.
So
actually,
if
the
somebody,
lesson.
normally what you do is you say this person worked here from this time to this time.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Full
And
stop.
so you haven't given a bad reference. You've just given no reference at all, other than to say yes, they worked here.
But then I rang them up. Finally got through to them, and then they rang me back the following month and I said, oh, yeah, he stole $250K from us too.
Oh, this is a nice sweet spot.
So wait a second, because there's two things. One, the lesson in there is ring your references, because what's on paper, people can't say shit on paper, so do ring them, especially if it's glowing, which is suspicious anyway.
Yeah.
You know. But then the other thing in that is if he stole money, what you're supposed to do actually is you're just supposed to call the police, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone's, it's more, if he's set up a fraudulent company and stuff, but it's, there's this thing that you can't, I've only learned this in practice, it's a crime and you can't arrest or mess the
sent him a
situation
nice
up.
text
So
message.
the moment you think it's a crime, because we've had to get a couple of people arrested here. I mean, can you believe it? With charity collection used to go around for people's birthdays or whatever. And we just couldn't work it out. So you get to the end and you'd be like, well, I put 20 quid in here and there's only 16 and it's gone around a whole building. So what the hell is going on? So we had to set up some cameras and we found out someone was nicking, This has happened twice. And another one.
It's so stupid because it's such a small amount. That would be
Well,
such
over time, there was always collections going around and
Oh,
she
really?
used to look after them. And obviously it was terrible because she went and told it. We couldn't say anything, but that's when my old man told it. And it happened again. And you've got to get evidence. If you can get evidence and it's black and white, this person's nicking, then you call the police and it's off your hands then.
Yeah.
They literally come and arrest it and it's up for them to investigate. Because if you go in and say you're a thief, right, you're sort of making accusations and everything. Anyway, I found it fascinating. The other time, someone started nicking off Rachel. Can you believe it? £20 just kept disappearing from my wallet.
God, I wouldn't fucking nick off
So
Rachel.
we set there to
Sorry,
set up
I
a
was swearing
camera
again.
to work out what was going on because she after this going on for a while. So this girl who was near where the exit is, one of our partners. She said, for so long, I just thought I was mad. I thought, oh, sure, I had 20 quid in there. I obviously bought something. It's gone. And then she said, eventually she was like, no, I definitely had 20 quid in there. So we had to get a £20 note, take pictures of it, put it in our wallet and set a camera up and wait. And then, lo and behold, someone came in. We couldn't see what they were doing. And then what was so funny, they needed to get in a better position. So they moved the bag and all the thing right in front of the camera with the £20. We then got the police who said, oh, no, I haven't done it. And so then pulled out the evidence. We've got to photocopy all of that. They're still denying it on the, it was unbelievable. Anyway, it's boring.
Wow.
But,
wow. No, that was interesting.
No, but there's definitely a good tip in there, which is that, don't
take
get
out
involved.
cash.
If you think someone's committing crime, see if you can get the evidence and just call the bloody police. And then they're gone. Gross dismissal, out the door, employment law, it's all over. Anyway, lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The worst bit of advice that I've ever been given.
can do that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Keep your fingers in as many pies as possible.
That sounds disturbing.
Sounds dirty.
On many levels,
Filthy.
I know.
That's the Australian version. Keep your fingers in the pie, mate.
It was when I left my first company in Australia. Was what am I going to do? And it's have a competence. Be good at. Be really good at something. Be an expert. Have a defendable and sustainable competitive advantages. I loved porter, and that sort of stuff. And so that's what I've that's the best bit of advice. Don't be a generalist. Be an expert at something.
Yeah, because I think some people think it's a good idea to have, a few strings to your bow so that you're kind of hedging.
That's what I was looking for, not the.
But no, I like fingers in pies. I mean, it just sounds worse every time I say it. But to hedge your bets a bit, and then if one thing goes off, you've still got the other thing.
You still got a finger in some other pie.
You can't be an expert in something if you're concentrating on loads of different things.
Correct.
Don't you find when you read about polymaths, like proper polymaths, how phenomenal they are? Because it's the way that they are experts at loads of things. They just turn their hand to something and within a year or two are surpassing
really good
anyone
at it,
who's ever looked at it in the field. And it's that level. This is amazing. When it's, when you read any of the super clever people, they're all polymaths. Whether they're Newton or any of the geniuses that you know of. It's phenomenal what they do. I mean, even Einstein is one of the most famous who always think, oh, well, yeah, you can come up with some really clever physics. But I only heard on the other day, he released 3 completely groundbreaking papers in 1 year when he was 22 years old. One in light, in photons things, the first version of relativity, and something else in, toilet brushes, and it's just like, what? What do you think is bullshit in your industry?
Brexit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take that as an
Especially
answer.
setting up a UK business of goods.
Has it really?
I came here to be part of Europe, not some pissant island off the end of.
And we thought Australia would understand what we were doing as an island.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Has it materially affected you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, shockingly so. But if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, and we're still in the game. But yeah, it was one of the worst days of my life. Still remember waking up saying, oh.
It's massive for goods businesses.
Yeah. And, we have a competitive advantage, with us being so close to Europe. And one of my competencies is I work well with Europeans and stuff because I've spent a lot of time with them. And
they don't hate Australians, are they?
Well, that does have a, that is, there's a bit of
hate
neutral.
us now, even more.
Well, I'm tarnished with that brush too, but yeah, they do, they're angry about it.
They're really angry
they're
about
angry
it.
about it.
We split up with a girlfriend. They're the ones that got dumped.
Yeah,
ultimately we're the ones that get effed, but they were the ones that got dumped, and they're upset about it. They really are. Even my good friends, our friends were here recently complaining about everyone's meaner to me. And I'm like, no, they're not. Everyone's exactly the same, but you guys hate us.
To be honest, though, I don't really blame them. If somebody turned around to you and said, right, I never fucking want to see you again.
Well, it's tribalism. It's pure tribalism. We joined this European club. We screwed over the Commonwealth in the process, but that's another story. And now everyone's forgotten
and
that.
now
even
we
the
can't hold the
Australians.
Commonwealth Games to save our lives
Well,
because nobody can be
now
arsed.
we've pissed off everyone. Unfortunately, we joined the European club. To be honest, at the time, I couldn't get my head around the problem either. But I was probably wrong in some of my thinking. It's taught us a lot,
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe it's humbled us a bit. A lot of us. 65% of us think it was a pretty terrible idea. It was terribly executed too. There was so many other ways to play that were all better than the way we played it.
Couldn't agree.
And Theresa May's, I'm sure, a lovely person, but she unfortunately just made terrible decisions throughout that period. I wouldn't have liked the job.
I know, but it's
should
just
it have even got
insane.
to that? Like Cameron, you don't.
The question shouldn't have been asked. But even when the question was asked, it is phenomenal that we played to the politics and didn't say, well, hang on, it's only 52%. Do we want to leave because we could have been an EEA country. If we were an EEA country like Iceland, nothing's really changes basically. And yet you get to bit of your law back. Iceland can protect itself.
It's just the entire mendacity of the thing.
Mendacity? Is that a man, too many men? Or
it's criminal.
Oh, wow.
Basically.
Mendacity. Good word.
It's lying.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It was just shocking.
I saw a video the other day somebody had just reposted of David Frost, so the chief negotiator, before Brexit had happened, saying, well, the European Union is 5 to 7% of our GDP. So we'll all lose 5 to 7% of we'll be 5 to 7% worse off, every single one of us, when we do this. Like they all knew perfectly well before we did it that it was going to fuck us over.
No, to be honest, to be fair, because mind you, I was only really listening to Radio 4, but they banged on and on about how it was a bad economic idea.
Yes, but the Radio 4 has a very specific audience.
Well, everywhere. They did it, they did their best, but they said they could appeal to the mind, but not to the heart. It's just that when you switch to someone saying, Braveheart shit, I don't know,
but
something in you.
But they also didn't, because you had people like Rees Mogg saying, all these Brexit benefits, it's going to be amazing. Once Brexit's done, you're going to get food will be cheaper, everything will be cheaper, it'll be amazing. Bollocks it will. Okay, Andrew, welcome to the Quickfire round. Does what it says on the tin. This is where we're going to ask you a list of questions to get to know you a little better, and you have to answer as quickly as you can.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
D, cue the music.
What was your first job?
I was a pharmacy boy, a chemist boy. Can you imagine that having
Quite respected in Australia. Pharmacies are quite
what does
respected.
that
Can you
entail?
imagine that these days?
Is that delivering?
I used to
people's
deliver
medicines?
the prescriptions to the old ladies on
Oh
my
my
bike.
God,
Could you do
sometimes-
that these days? I don't think you
No.
could. You couldn't. There's no way. Yeah.
How old were you at this point?
13 or 14.
Yeah, see, because you probably weren't. You're not really allowed a job nowadays under sort of 16, 15, 16.
What was your worst job?
Working for Mars Confection.
Ooh, Mars, Slough,
Mars.
good Slough company.
Great manufacturers and all that. But I just wasn't a Mars.
My-
You're either a Martian or you're not. And I
Oh, is that what
wasn't.
they call them, Martians?
Yeah, it was just open plan offices, 10% of your pay every day. You had to clock in every day.
What do you
My,
mean 10% of your pay?
10% of your pay every day was contingent on you clocking in before
Alright.
8 o'clock in the morning. And if you didn't, you'd lose your good time.
My mum-
Which was
Great
10
idea. Write that down.
Yeah. Favorite subject at school?
Economics and politics. I couldn't really split them. I was, my nickname in politics was Pinky because I was almost red. So this philosophy about democratising juice, and I think it has its heritage.
So red in Australia is the same
Left.
as red over
Red's
here.
left, yes.
It's not the same as
Yeah.
red in the US.
And at a nice private school bank called Pinky, he's almost red.
Okay. Okay. What's your special skill?
I think HPP, that's what I want to be best at.
I can cold press anything.
Do you have
Give me
a
anything,
wife?
I'll
Do you have
cold
like
press
a
Yeah, I've got a wife, and through my wife's she was a director. Of
Do you like, can I
Coldpress
put your
when we-
handbag in the HPP? Like the kids want to put everything in it, I bet. It's like, oh, can we put this in it, Dad? Can we put chicken in it? What happens when you put chicken in it?
We've done tuna, we've done finger lime. You wouldn't believe what we've put through an HPP machine. So yeah.
The mind
But
is
it's
now
about-
boggling.
It's suddenly feeling very Australian. It's Friday afternoon. We've had a couple of
What should we
tinnies.
put in the
It's like-
HPV?
It's like, I'll tell you what,
Give it a
Brad.
go, mate.
Brad, give it a go, mate. See what he's like. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I used to, when I was working for big companies and stuff like that in Australia, I was reading books on entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So I always had a burning desire to do my own thing. And I think that was, I just wasn't I'm not very good at politics, playing the game.
But you just said your favourite subject is politics.
Yeah.
Oh, right, politics.
Office politics.
It's a thing at the bottom.
What did your parents want you to be when you grew up?
Well, I wasn't an academic star, so I think, and they did the psychological appraisals on me and all that sort of stuff, and it wasn't very promising. So I think they were just pretty happy that I went to uni, got a degree, and got a job. They were delighted.
What did you do at uni?
I studied Bachelor of Business Marketing.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so don't get me started on Australian education is very good. I use my degree every day
Okay,
with my
cool.
job. So it's
I never used my degree, so well done.
Go to karaoke song.
I'm not a big karaoke person, but my son's been getting me into Kanye West and Rihanna, Kanye West. That 453 song I'm pretty good on that.
Oh, no way. No
I have
akadaka.
no idea what
I'm
they're
on
talking
about.
about.
I've just got onto Spotify and I'm going back through Midnight Oil and all the old Australian stuff.
Office dogs, business or bullshit? Where is he?
We had our policy, but I have a colleague who was bringing her dog in all the time. But a more important employee, he wouldn't come to work because he hated the dog. So it was it depends on the circumstance. People are more important. The team is more important than an individual.
Don't listen, Romeo. Don't listen.
Did he just say that? That people get really upset when he's saying things like that. The funny one is to say, will you eat a chicken or lamb? People say, yeah, I eat lamb. And then, do you eat a dog? No. Why not? Oh, it's completely different. Dogs are special. It's like, why are they special? Because they are. The other one, rabbits. Rabbits are special.
You presumably haven't heard this week's The Rest is History.
No.
Okay.
I know,
There's a
it's
conversation
custard.
about spirit animals, and Dominic goes, I'd like to think that I'm really exciting spirit animals, but I just know in my heart of hearts I'm a dog.
He so is. Have you ever been fired?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've already heard once. How many
3.
times?
Oh, no,
How many?
no,
Sorry, let me
once.
rephrase this, Andrew.
I'm a master at being made redundant.
Okay.
That's fired.
Yeah.
You know.
4 times if
4
you
times.
include
Wow.
my, so that's a badge of honour.
How we should ask it like that. How many times have you been fired? So
Rather
there's
than have you
annoying,
ever
like
been fired.
healthy people who are like, oh,
It's
no,
it's like,
never happened. Oh, I enjoy every job. You know.
when did you stop hitting your wife? It's a leading question.
Yeah.
What's your vice?
Irish whiskey, a bit has been my partial thing, and
Particularly Irish, the original inventors. You feel they've got
and
something.
I hate to admit it, but I do vape from time to time.
Yeah.
So it's better than smoking, I suppose.
Nobody knows.
Yeah,
They think so.
It's the mystery.
We'll discover at some point that it was a lot worse and we didn't
There's
realise
some
it.
sci-fi film with everyone with vape lung in it. Don't worry, I'm going down with you. Very good, like that. Top 5 tips for founders, entrepreneurs.
Really good Australian one first. There was a Sydney Swans, a football team that won a premiership a few years ago. They had a no dickheads policy. And I like that. I like
Andy
that.
likes that.
You are winning a lot of friends on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, so no dickheads. Get the right people. You're
Miller
going to
stickers.
ask me about books. Good to Great, Jim Collins. Get the wrong people off the bus. Get the right people on.
All right, okay.
Yeah, that one.
He's murdering a metaphor.
Is that the whole book? I always feel with these books, it's
Yeah,
like,
well,
you
you
just
just
got
gotta-
read 200
you just gotta
pages. or
You
could
can't
just
possibly do
tell
200
them,
pages on get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off, unless you really, really string out the metaphor.
You really do string it out there,
And
don't
then
they?
the driver, and then the mechanic.
Yeah.
A couple of other random ones. Pareto principle. Do you know that 80-20 rule? That applies to everything I've sort of discovered in business.
What is the rule?
80-20 rule?
You get 80% of your business from 20% of your customers.
Oh, I see.
80% of it just applies everywhere. So
80% of the love from 20% of the women.
80% of the annoyance from 20% of your customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
build great teams, not great employees. You know, I'm
That's a good one.
yeah. So I mentioned about the fingers in the pie. Making mistakes on other people's money. Do you like that one?
Do make your mistakes on other people's money.
Yes.
That's exactly what pisses them off, though.
Yeah, but then
Yeah, but
you
if
learn
they-
from it.
This is a bit like don't get high on your own supply.
Worry about cash and margins. They're the only two things that worry. That
Very true. Margins, the important bit, really.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So
Yeah.
I've slowly got my dog into a rather strange.
Yeah, he
Position.
wants to participate.
You want to go on the table, mate?
Okay, so this brings us to our favourite part of the show, the business or bullshit quiz. Do you cue the music? This is where we'll list a bunch of terms and phrases typically used in business, and all you, Andrew, have to do is tell us whether you think it's business or bullshit. And you can elaborate if you want. So you ready? We're not, clearly.
Well, we'll sort them out live. Here we
Okay.
go. Planned obsolescence.
bullshit.
Bullshit. Things should last.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Even though your
Yeah, no,
product
that's
only
true.
lasts, how long does it last?
Till you've drunk it.
It's got a very long shelf life.
It's soft, does it?
Yeah, up to 180 days.
Is it really? That's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. And if it's different types of juices that has a longer shelf life, like is an orange
The
juice quite stable?
pasteurised, depends on how it's preserved. Pasteurisation, we're much better. And
Pasteurization would last less, would it?
flash pasteurisation lasts about 30 to 40 days.
Oh, you're better.
Yeah, so we're better. But then if you're boiling something at 135 degrees, it's going to last forever.
Oh my God, they boil it at 130. What, the really long life stuff?
Yeah, that's the real.
So that's just water with sugar at that
well,
point.
by that, yeah, correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Then you've got to put the flavour back in. Guerrilla marketing, business or bullshit?
Get your paddle.
Done well. Good, but let me give you one example of that. We did a guerrilla marketing campaign at Shoreditch, blitzing, sampling, all that sort of stuff, but we didn't have any distribution there. So, get the whole. So it was a wasted
Connect
effort.
the dots.
Yeah, connect the dots. If it can work well, and especially for small brands like us, it's really important.
If you generally follow people around trying to get them to drink it, is that how you market a product like this? Get them to try it? I mean,
Jim's iced coffee. He dressed up in a clown suit. He's just sold to Britvic for $10 million, but he got into Tesco dressing up as a clown and storming there.
Really? What did he do? Dress up as a clown?
Something like that, and to get that cut through. But I just can't bring myself to do that sort of stuff.
I've told this story before, but when we were selling Bare Nibbles urban fruit, right?
Oh, that's Giles.
Giles is one of Giles's companies. When they delivered the kind of offers out to the various different companies that were potential buyers, they got somebody to dress up in a bear costume to deliver them.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice.
Because
I hate all that stuff, but I hate to tell you it works sometimes.
It does work. It does work.
So you'd have to dress up on a giant HPP machine in a
No,
cold
it'd be a
pressing
big-
machine.
big piece
with
of
like
fruit.
flips if you're getting
Big
squeezed.
apple suit.
Big apple.
Big apple.
No, you've got to be pressed like with some sort of like, I don't know, squeezing situation.
It sounds like a medieval
Lots of
torture
hexagons fit
plan.
together. You've got to go like little sardines. Anyway.
But if you ask Giles, he would say you're better off when you're going to supermarkets, sending them samples, you send them in some kind of funky way and you're more likely to get noticed.
yeah, no, for sure.
He's the master of
He
it.
is the master of it.
He had a look at our
Lesson.
business.
Did he?
Many years ago.
Okay.
Wanted most of it for nothing, but so we passed on that.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Sounds the normal Dragon's Den.
Networking.
Oh, flipping that fudging. Yeah, give me
Really?
that.
I'm too selfish. Like when I want something, I go after it, but just networking for the sake of networking.
Are we talking about networking where we take our business cards and we go into a room, we say hi, we connect?
I'm going to be your lawyer.
Because having just done that at a conference, I find it's really strange. Yes, you did meet these people, and yes, they are mailing you, but
I find
you don't have this like lovely warm connection with him. You're like, oh yeah, you're that person. We both like kissed each other's arse for a few minutes. And,
you do sometimes, but it's one in 150 people that you speak to, and it's like I don't think
opportunity cost.
Having said that, we won a bunch of business out of it.
Yeah,
I think you got 2 big jobs out of it.
Yeah,
I was thinking of one in my head, and then which was sort of because of that, and then I did the emails, and I was like, hang on, there's that other guy who wants us to help him.
Yeah. So I mean, the phrase that I think really describes it is you've got to kiss a lot of frogs.
Yes.
But one day one of those frogs will turn into a handsome prince.
Yeah, I'm just not good
I'm
at
still
kissing
waiting.
frogs, And I'm getting a bit long in the tooth, a bit old and grumpy for it too.
Yeah.
So maybe I need some younger.
I think it would be more fun to create like a networking thing when you go to it and you go in and you have to have a shot of tequila. So everybody, as they come in, shot of tequila, and then you go around the room, and by the time you come around the other side, like there's some system where you've got to just like go to talk to someone, and then you can like come around and you have another shot. If there could be some like crazy rhythm to it, that you were just then all like naked in a bar on the floor dancing to Hooba 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 by I don't know, Pet Shop Boys. Commissions.
Yeah, I don't mind commissions, especially if it reduces my fixed costs and it's performance based. Yeah, I'm okay with not 100% commissions, but no, I've got no problem with commissions.
Business.
Yeah, get your paddle out.
Sorry.
Got a paddle for a
Business.
Preferred shares. You know what preferred shares are? Preferred
Yes.
shares, basically.
Are there options? With
No,
that
They're shares that get a preferential return on an exit, normally.
Historically, they were the shares that got a fixed dividend. They were like debt
But
that
really,
behaved like equity. So
there are 2 different types, but a liquidation.
Okay,
the egalitarian Australian in me doesn't go for all that sort of stuff.
how about convertible debt instrument with a coupon? Do you know what that is?
Love that.
Love that.
Running them at the moment. Got about 600
His
grand
face
of
lit
them.
up like McDonald's there.
Well, I just knew what he was talking about. I was just relieved.
So what is what is that to you? A convertible debt instrument with
Looks
a coupon?
like a convertible loan note. So
it's exactly what it is.
So
They lend you 100 grand.
So, and if we go well, I've got convertible loan notes with my excellent shareholders at the moment, and if we're looking a bit dodgy, they'll get their money back in cash, and if they think we're going to be brilliant, they'll convert it into shares. But
And dilute you to hell. No.
yeah, exactly. So that's.
And do you believe with a convertible loan note you should be quite, because you could set it up to be more punitive or not, I guess, can't you?
Well,
like I do or don't want equity almost.
Well, normally a convertible loan note will also have a percentage off the price of the equity.
So
you're getting a preferential kind of, you're getting a discount.
Well, interest, ours have interest.
But it
on
also has interest. So the interest is the bit that you kind of go, well, your reward for lending us the money is the interest converts into shares and you get extra shares.
And do you generally put a fixed term on a convertible debt, or someone would say, I'm lending you this money for quite short? Is it normally like a year?
Like when you see a loan note, it'll be called such and such loan notes 2028. That whatever the date on it is the date that they mature.
Okay, so the date on the front will tell you that, and then that's what it has to repay, or they have a right to convert if you can't repay.
Yeah,
or they can roll it on. They're in charge,
depends.
I assume.
Well,
Depends.
it depends.
It can be your option.
What would you recommend? What's the right commercial balance?
I mean, I would personally always, because I'm always acting for founders, recommend that they're convertible at your choice rather than theirs.
Yeah.
But you never get it.
You do sometimes.
Well, you just have the money to pay them back, and then it's
Yeah.
Oh, you set up a mechanism to say, okay, you can trigger that we have to pay you, but if we can't pay you, we've got 6 months, and if not, it'll convert or something. You create some sort of like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't get that deal.
3 months, 2 months.
It's repayable in 5 years' time. Maybe the interest is repayable over the term of the loan or rolled up and paid with the.
Yeah, compound
the
interest is the one to get for, but then you wouldn't get it till the end.
Well, you don't want compound. You want to avoid compound interest.
Yeah.
But then, and either the interest always gets repaid, or the interest will convert with the loan at the end into shares at a slight discount.
A lot of our investors are EIS investors, and of course,
so
they
can't do that.
They have to buy equity, so they hate convertible owner. So we have.
I mean,
is that good for you? That's good for you, isn't it? I mean, less debt, but no, you'd actually prefer more debt.
No, but you could do. You can do an ASA, which at least kicks it down the road, an advanced subscription agreement.
Yeah,
which kicks it down the road 6
but
months.
But it's not a debt instrument.
No, it absolutely is not.
No, but they should allow it. Talking about like, what's their big problem with the debt instrument?
It's not risk capital. It has to be risk capital.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be risky, but it's bloody risky most of the time.
Well, because a lot of convertible loan notes will have a charge.
Yeah.
So people are taking a charge over the business. So if the business goes tits up, the charge holder gets the first money back. So you're de-risking it.
And if you've lost us right now, particularly Wendy in Winnipeg, who's never heard of an EIS or give a flying monkeys, and big up Andrew's mum and dad.
People have not been listening to this podcast if they have not heard the words EIS before.
Right. Anyway, bullshit.
It's me. Pre-pack insolvency.
Business. Have you done this? Done one of them?
No, but I've thought about it. And it's, as a director, you have to be prudent.
What's a pre-pack insolvency?
You know who's going to buy the business, and it's a done deal.
You're not supposed to. That's not legal. Yeah, but basically, you go into insolvency. You pick your insolvency practitioner and say, "I'll bung you 50 grand for the assets." Don't ask too many people.
Yeah.
No, I'm being a bit outrageous, but you effectively make an offer at the start, which the insolvency practitioner has to take the best offer. But if you're the only offer in town, you get the deal because Because
most people don't want to buy a company that's about to go into insolvency.
Yeah, some bag of crap.
But a lot of startups, we've talked about this already, but a lot of startups, their entire problem is cash flow. So they might have a really good, really valuable business underneath that, but they just can't maintain it.
Imagine if all insolvency practitioners had to, like, they do, I think it's in a newspaper or a magazine they publish.
You have to advertise it.
No, but imagine if it was just like this online database that anyone could search and you could say, oh, they've offered 50 grand for the assets. You say 52.
Yeah.
I mean, turn it into a marketplace.
No, but that happens
it almost
a lot.
does, doesn't it?
Well, they don't market it publicly that much.
No,
unless you've got to be on the
Gazette.
case. It's a Gazette. You've got to read the Gazette.
Yes, correct.
And then contact them. It's but imagine it was much more like crowdfunding.
eBay.
There was a picture.
That's what I mean.
This is the assets, because in a way they get a much higher number. People will be like, I'll pay 200 grand for that.
I have seen it happen that people, the founders of businesses plan a pre-pack, because particularly during COVID, when if you were the kind of business that had sites in London owned by people in Hong Kong or whatever, they didn't give a shit that it was COVID. They still wanted their rent.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay the rent because you didn't have anybody coming into your shop to buy anything. You didn't have much choice, right, but to go into administration.
Yeah.
And at that point, Like, you know, the
They
plan.
worked out that they'd secured against a UK limited company with nothing in it.
But, you know, at that point,
Limited
And
liability.
you laughed your ass off.
but the founders
before
are
they
like,
took your bounce back loan.
founders are like, let's put a consortium together to buy this. It's going to be great. And then suddenly, out of the blue, their, you know, immediate competitor turns up with £5
There's
more.
always that risk. And
And I've seen people
has
actually
that
get
happened?
screwed by that.
Yeah. And you're too smart by heart.
One in particular that I could mention, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, so it's nothing's for certain in life, but you know, find your friendly local insolvency practitioner. High net worth.
They're great AIS investors.
Have you heard about? Then there's the ultra high net worth. Do you know where the line is?
What's an ultra high net worth?
Ultra high net worth is gross assets of more than 50 million, or was it 500 million? It was a lot. Whenever he told me
a
yesterday.
high net worth is
It's nothing in modern net worth terms. I mean, they're like the millionaires used to be. Like, oh, he's a millionaire. It's like, yeah, he's got a house in London.
Definition of financial promotion, which they put up this year, is now you have to have assets of over, I think it's 170,000.
To be a high net worth.
Yeah.
Assets. That's not including your house.
Sorry, not assets. Salary of over 170,000 or gross assets of 320, I want to say.
I think that's fair. Cost of living crisis, Brexit, all the good stuff. All right, one more for luck.
Company cars.
You had one of those.
bullshit.
In Australia, there's no fucking way. No dingoes.
I did, mate.
You must have.
But I don't hear.
Because the Aussies always turn up here and they go, what the fuck do you mean, mate? I can't get a car, you know? It's
Yeah,
like,
but presumably they've got
you
a lot
drive
further
everywhere.
to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gonna give him a score?
Oh, yeah. What do you think? We got quite technical, so he gets a lot of extra marks for the technicality.
Yeah.
You've actually, you know, I thought those were good ones to ask because you've actually been a managing director in the UK for a while. So I think 12,012.
Okay.
What does that mean?
That's lucky in the Philippines.
We've got to employ somebody at some point to go back through every single one of these podcasts and work out a scoreboard of how much everybody's got.
It's actually really hard. Come up with any number between 1 and 100,000. You're like,
I don't want to upset you, Andrew, but some people have scored millions.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
One person. It was an accident. I'm gonna
I don't know whether that's good or not.
Yeah, you can't go back though. I guess we just should move into millions, shouldn't we?
No,
it's like millions.
Because this is like how inflation happens.
You've scored 3,587,764.
It's like A-levels. We're going to have to start doing stars.
Yeah, fucking. That was the dumbest. You weren't in this country then.
No.
You know, every year the newspaper reports people have scored even more A's in their GCSEs since we've decided to make GCSEs really easy and do positive marking, which meant that if you wrote the good answer anywhere, I mean, they just tried to get friendly, didn't they? O-levels were tough, the original 16-year-old exam. And then they suddenly announced, oh, we've introduced a new grade, A star. Basically, I mean, you're pretty sure there's a flaw in the system.
But it's annoying now because if I tell people what my A-levels are, I have to explain. When I did A-levels, there was no A-star. That was as high as you could get.
Oh, if they kept it?
Yeah,
no one has ever come to their freaking... It's like creating the Premier League. I mean, it's bizarre.
It makes my exam results look shit.
On that fascinating bombshell. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Plug?
Oh, yes.
Would you like... what did we say,
juice is
30
delicious.
seconds
So,
to plug
yeah,
yourself?
absolutely. So, Coldpress, you can get us at Waitrose, Asda, Aldi, Lidl, but most importantly, you can buy it from our shop, coldpress.co.uk. And,
If you've got anything that you want to pressurise at 87,000 bars per square inch, you're the man.
That's right.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Did he get that number right?
No, it's 87,000 PSI.
6,000
bars.
600 megapascals.
Okay,
6,000
I was really impressed that you got that right.
87,000 PSI.
PSI. I said the wrong
But you had
measurements.
not got it
Edit in PSI. I just got it right. Yes, I did, Pepper. Thank you very much.
So there you have it. That was this week's episode of Business Without Bullshit, and we'll be back with our quiz, Business or Bullshit, on Thursday. Until then...
It's ciao.